Okay, so we've got our arm movements, we've got our leg movements. Now there's also specific moves that are unique to the deep water or can be done in the shallow, but need to be suspended or maybe supported by, say, a noodle or a set of delta bells. So in the deep, you have no floor. So you aren't able to sort of use the floor to leverage your movements. So you have to stabilize more so with your core. So an example of this would be like a side kick or a pendulum. Would be very difficult to do in the deep. So instead we do more unison movements, and you can play around a little bit more with your body position, right? So my favorite thing to kind of start with, and one of my favorite moves for the deep, is a seated jack. So you can do regular jacks in the deep, of course, but you can also position your body in a seated position as if you were on a chair. So, and I usually demonstrate this like this. This is your body, these are your legs, and I myself will sit on the chair. So a seated jack, for example, this is not the most comfortable chair, but my body is like this, and a seated jack would be a jack in a sitting position. So some variations of this would be considered a long lever jack. You could do short lever. So short lever jack, you could attach your heels together and do that same motion, opening and closing. And those would be movements that would work the gluteus medius, so the side of the glute, and they abduct the leg, and they would be comparable to, say, a pendulum or a side kick in the shallow. And those wouldn't work good in the deep, so instead you would do these kinds of movements, right? So another movement in this family would be a kneeling jack. So this one's really hard to demonstrate. I want you to imagine your legs, both legs are coming out like a regular jack, but they would do it on their knees. Again, you don't have a floor, so they're suspended in the water, both knees bent like this, and they abduct both legs out and in like so. That is considered kneeling. You can also do kneeling movements in the form of a ski. So just imagine both legs are doing this motion. This is called a kneeling ski, okay? So those would be movements that would be unique to the deep. Oh, one more. I shouldn't say unique to the deep. They can be done in the shallow. They would just need a noodle, or you could suspend, and it would be very difficult. Like, so suspended movements in the shallow are just more difficult. Not impossible, but just more difficult, especially if you have new patrons. Just one more thing, back to that seated position. You can push the legs down into what I call a seated flutter. So that would be just another movement, not unique to deep. I have people in the shallow suspend that one often, but just you can do it in the deep without any extra equipment, with a fair amount of ease. And so there you have a couple of movements that are specific to the deep.